Good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And our team since 2020 has reached out directly and indirectly to over 300,000 fathers around the world. So that's a beautiful thing. Some other things I do in my spare time. I just forgot what else I do. Oh, one of the things is I'm a featured contributor to the Fly Nubian Queen Network YouTube channel, which is a subtitle Where Black Women Have a Voice. And that YouTube channel has 581,000 subscribers. So yes, Black man, African man, content on a channel for African women. So I always thank Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins for giving me that opportunity. I also, we'll get to that in just a minute. I got to run a promo for something something else that's coming up. So a little housework here. Please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and also hit the subscribe button. Also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you want to advertise your business. Advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I broadcast on. Email me, dr.vibe at the VIBESHOW.com. And also continue the conversation in between Epic Conversations on the Morning Vibe Discord channel. So let's see. Someone's already giving comments already. So let's make sure we got it. Good morning, Shirley. How are you this morning? Hope you are fine and safe wherever you're chiming in from. I'd like to know where you're chiming in from. Also, we're here in Toronto. We're expecting a big snowstorm starting this afternoon and this evening. We haven't had much snow, and it is, I guess, calendar-wise officially spring, but I knew winter still had some kick. So make sure you bear down wherever you are, and wherever you are, especially if you're watching live. Oh, there we go. JJ Mars from Colorado. What's the weather going on out there? We're getting some Colorado big time. And I wonder why Leslie McEwen is here today. But, well, I don't know. But maybe you'll be able to figure out. If not, I'll tell you later on in the Epic Conversation. But always thank you for one of my core supporters, whether on screen or in the comments. Leslie, thank you so much. And I had a feeling you may be in the comments today. And also from Toronto, Fitness IQ Cam, EYL. EYL, Miss EYL. Yeah, Miss EYL. I'll just keep it up that. And she goes, stop jinxing us, Dr. Vi. I'm not jinxing you. It's the weather gods. It's the weather gods. It's not me. I have nothing to do with it. So that's that. So thanks, everyone. Keep the comments flowing. A few things. So let's get to some stuff that's going on. So let's do this first, because there's so many people that want to get their messages out on the platform these days. I can't keep up. So little promo here. Black Marriage Day is coming up this weekend. Black Marriage Celebration. And that's what you're looking at. All the nice things brought to you by NASA Community Center. And it's celebrating 24-karat marriage. Being put on by Paul Osborne and Nicole James Osborne. Also brought to you by Green Curtain, one of the sponsors. Axantopia Farage. Yes. There's the link. Also show you a little banner where you can get information. There's still tickets left. Not too many. Happening Sunday, March 24th, after the day of the snowstorm. So, Paul and Nicole, you are blessed that you're not getting hit. So that's one thing there. Next up, something that's coming up this Monday. Let's hear. Yes, it's coming this Monday. Indie Soup Media TV is launching this Monday. And I said there was something I wanted to chat about a little bit later when I did the intro. So that's one of the things I held back on because I wanted to share the video. So Indie Soup Media is powered by a friend of the Dr. Vibe show. And Dr. Vibe, her name is Dr. Tachi, based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, launching it on Independent Creators Network that's going to be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and Roku initially. Over 30 plus content creators with a reach of over 1 million people. And Dr. Vibe's content is the only African Canadian based content that's going to be on the platform. So looking forward to that. So be able to see replays of the Morning Vibe and also Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala will be replays, edited versions, 1 hour versions will be on that platform. So it launches on Monday. I actually want to ask everyone, should we try to get Dr. Tachi on for a little bit on Monday? On launch day? Tell me in the comments. Appreciate that. But you can find out more about Indie Soup Media TV. There's the website address, and I'll type it out in the contents if I can multi-purpose enough this morning. So, what else is in the comments? What else is in the comments this morning before we get our friend on? So JG Marsh says, Colorado, fairly nice for now today. That's good. And Leslie goes, I'm always here. Why do I not refute that at all? She's always here. Fantastic. And okay, Fitness IQ Cam, when you say yes, please to what? Like, you host your own shows. You have to have better comments to that. I don't know what yes, please is. Yes, please is to what? Oh my gosh. EYL. FW. No, FQ, sorry, RW. I slipped up today. And also, yes to Dr. Tachi, Leslie. So there's the stuff. We got Lasai. Okay, stop it, everybody. Well, we're having some fun this morning. This is good. You know what? And Ryan, hopefully Ryan will be with us, as he always tells me on Fridays when there's school, he walks the kiddos to school. So hopefully he'll be in at the bottom of the hour, because our friend this morning, her and Ryan, they know each other. So it's not a stranger to Ryan. Okay. And Fitness IQ goes, you just said to Dr. Tachi. Okay, so you're saying yes to Dr. Tachi. All right, I will see if we can bring on for a little bit on Monday. We do have a scheduled guest, but maybe in the first 10, 15 minutes, she can slide in, say hello, and share her excitement with the launch of the network. Well, this lady, if you host conversations and when you ask for someone's bio, you say, oh my, when you get bios like the one I got, and I'm going, Andrea, what do I take out of this? Like, how can I parse it down? Because YouTube, LinkedIn only has so many characters when you can put in a description. So I pared it down. So I'm just going to make it really simple and just bring her to the stage, and then she can introduce herself, because I don't want to leave anybody out, and she's the best person to define herself. So we have the wonderful and beautiful Andrea Pierce from Ottawa in the house. Good morning, Miss Pierce.
Good morning, Dr. Vibe. So great to be here.
Right back at you. I think this is the first time we've had on the morning. You had on the Morning Vibe.
Yes.
What's been going on this morning?
You know what? It's beautiful here in Ottawa. We're not going to get any snow until Saturday, so hopefully you guys won't jinx us.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, we just do our thing here. We're good. Well, let's see if we can take the brunt for you. Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
like that. It's cold.
It's been cold. So can you introduce yourself? Because like I said, you sent me this bio. I said, what am I gonna do? So I think you're the best person to share yourself with our audience.
So right now I'm the executive director of the Black Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub at Carleton University. And it's a first of its kind initiative funded by the Canadian government as a part of the Black Entrepreneurship Program. So about myself, outside of that, is I graduated from Carleton University, and I also have an MBA. I'm a lead accredited professional in building design and construction. I'm a certified energy manager, and I'm a project management professional. You know, Black people, we gotta like step up to the plate. I have a lot of credentials. They say I'm like the alphabet behind my name. But it has helped me in my career, and especially, you know, in being credible in the different spaces that I work with. I usually work in non-traditional fields, tech, and I've also done some work in like housing. And it's mostly male dominated. And usually in the past, thank God there's a lot more women now. I was for many years the only woman and the only Black person. So, you know, it takes a while for people to trust you. You have to come with your credentials and show that you know what you're doing, as well. So that's kind of my background. I worked for startups, Fortune 500 company, government organizations, and I have managed up to $750 million USD. And that was with Pacific Gas and Electric Company, manage all their capital projects for energy delivery. So I've had some decent responsibility,
You think?
you know, and I worked on some really interesting projects. Like I did the first Clinton Climate Initiative project ever, and it was delivered by the City and County of San Francisco. I led that. You know, I did the first IEEE green button in the world that built a standard for London Hydro when I came back home to Canada. I've won like the BPM Global Process Excellence Awards. I've done a few things.
A few.
Things. I yeah, I've won like, you know, CS Week award for the company that I work for a product that I actually invented. Unfortunately, I did it at work. And you know, so it's been nice. I've had a really fun career. I have some really great mentors and sponsors, particularly, mostly men. And I've had a great female support network of women leaders, particularly in Silicon Valley. So, you know, I feel really blessed.
You know, we've known each other for a minute, and about at least 20 to 30% of what you shared, I had no idea. You hide it well.
You know, people don't know much about me. They see me working, and you and I have worked for many years on the UN decade. And you see me in the background organizing community engagement and town halls and stuff like that, and doing, you know, advocacy with the government and all that. But I generally like to keep a low profile, even though I'm very opinionated.
No, you lie. You. And before we go, we're going to go to break in a few more. And there she is. Dr. Tachi's in the house. Good morning, Dr. Tachi, the driving force behind Indie Soup Media. So, Dr. Tachi, I took a little in-house live poll, and we want to know if you're available on Monday on the launch of Indie Soup Media, just for a few minutes, not for a whole segment, whole show, but for a few minutes. But Dr. Tachi is here, so just want to shout her out. Before we go to break, Andrea, where did you get your passion for knowledge?
You know what? I've always loved to learn. I still do. Like, I'm a big AI fan right now and for a while, and I've been studying it and using it and excited about it. You know, I've always been very innovative. I think it's my gift from God. And my mom, in growing up, her first career, she's a therapist now, but her first career, she was in tech. And she's the one who introduced all our family.
What? Hold on. You're what?
Yes, before her changing career transition to becoming a therapist, she was in tech. And actually, all my brothers are also in tech.
Like what she said. So, family, you got to realize I've known Andrea and her mother. So, her mother is Leslie, who says she's always here for a number of years. Like I said, I'm finding out stuff that I had no idea about. And that is amazing. So, you know what? I have to get Mummy back on because we need to hear, like, she always comes on my platform, talks about the present. We need to know some about the past because I know that would be so inspiring to so many. That is amazing. And my other question I would say is, where have you got your passion to fight for our people? Where did that start?
Also, my parents. My parents was very, very active growing up. I remember when I was like a kid in Ottawa, they were very active in the Jamaican Association. But at the time, the Jamaican Association included like lots of other people. In Ottawa at the time, there was not a lot of Black people. And so we were a really close community. And my parents were very active. I remember when they were having meetings, my parents would let me tutor the kids in math and English. So I was always like, they were always making us do things. My parents would host, like domestic servants who didn't have a place to go on the weekend. They would come and stay at our house. So they've set a great example for me. And my dad was an entrepreneur, and so was my mom as well. My mom started like a few businesses. My dad was a cabinet maker growing up, and he had his own business. In fact, he worked on the library at Parliament building. That was, I think, part of his contracts. So yeah, I think, my parents has been my foundation in a lot of things. And they've always pushed me, encouraged me to grow and learn and be that foundation that even when I fail, I have a safe place to land. So yeah, I think that's what gives me boldness and security to speak out and to do the things that I do. Yeah.
So I'm always got ideas going on. I'm going to throw this out there. I would like one day to have as many members of your family on together and have a conversation about your family. Hearing what I've heard about the little bit more now that I've heard, your family needs to be celebrated, especially your parents.
Okay. My mom is a total introvert.
I know that.
Yeah, and my family is too. I think I'm the most extroverted one of all of us, so you might have trouble getting that to
Well,
happen.
yeah, I'm going to try because just a little insight. I do have conversations with Andrea's mom, and she goes, she never stays still. She's always on the move. And I'll say, she's going to be okay, Leslie. She's going to be all right. It's all good. But wow, just there, I could stop the program right now just right, because all this stuff that I didn't know is just absolutely amazing. And the thing is, it's so understated. I did not know. I've only met your dad digitally once, and now I'm going, I need to hear more from him. I got to reach out to him. I just want to get some.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So my dad that I grew up with, like, my mom was married. This is my stepfather. I think
Yeah.
connected with the second, like,
Yeah.
Bishop McEwen.
Yeah.
And Owen Clark, my dad, he's he's a cabinet maker and retired.
Mm.
And I remember growing up with my parents, how even in like a lot of people, back in those days, were a close community. And I remember even on the weekends that the community would get together when somebody bought a house. And, usually they couldn't afford a new house and they would buy an older house. And the whole community would come together and help them build like a new house. I know my dad would be helping them putting in brand new cabinetry and stuff like that. The women would cook and paint and help with stuff. Like by the time we were done, the person would have a brand new house and it didn't cost them anything. I really miss that.
Yes. Where is that now?
For people to build community, like generational wealth, and have a house they could leave to their kids. But we've lost that. Now you have to pay everybody for everything. We're not as close as a community as we used to be. But my parents were very, not just at a public level, but privately, they've always been very generous and supportive of people. My mom would do people's resumes, write letters for them, when they wanted to bring family to Canada. And I'm a regulated community and immigration consultant. I have my own practice. And, I saw those examples from my parents that wherever they could help somebody, they would. And so, I followed that same example. And I know my grandma was the same kind of person, and my mom learned that from her. So we've got generations of
Wow.
good
Wow.
examples.
Well, I want to say here, hearing what I have now, that your family is a great example of what I say a lot, and I've learned a lot, that the greatest area of wealth in the African-based family is the family.
Yes.
Just want to, Ray McMillan's here. Good morning, Ray. Good morning. He says, yes, sad to say individualism has taken over and many have lost a cooperative spirit. So true. And also Dr. Tachi says, sure, on Monday. So I'll chat with you on today, probably, Dr. Tachi, slide in for a bit on Monday, the launch of Indie Soup Media Day. One other quick thing before we go to break, because I'm keep on hearing more and more stuff, because we're going to pivot to the decade in just a moment. What are your thoughts about the current situation in regards to African immigrants? Because it's something that I've become exposed to and very concerned about. What are your thoughts? And we'll go to break on that situation.
That is a really sad situation that people are coming and being on the street, and we've invited them here. And some groups of immigrants have had so many opportunities. I'll use the Ukrainian example. I wish Canada would treat all our immigrants and refugees with the same care and compassion and planning that they put into supporting Ukrainians. For example, there are hotlines where they can call, get jobs. There's programs set up, funding, housing, all these things. And that shows that Canada can do it. And so we need to do better for all our community, not just one group. And we see the success of that with the Ukrainians. And so we have a model that we can follow for other groups as well. So, we can do better, and we should do better, and we're not doing it for certain groups of people.
I appreciate your thoughts on that. And I agree 150%, because I've been having the opportunity to assist some of them. And I think is a two-pronged challenge. First of all, the misinformation they're given from their home country. The people are saying, come here, come here. And then a lot of the challenges that they're faced here is not a good thing. So Dr. Tati says, exactly, but maybe this is a call to action for our African countries to start make things better so they don't have to go to cold Canada. And Mummy says, not just for the white ones. There you go. All right. Mummy is in the house. All right. So we're going to take a quick break for about 2 minutes. And when we come back, we're going to dive in big time on the United Nations International Decade. Did I write that right? International Decade. I've written that wrong. I've written that wrong. So I got to change that up while we're on break. So we're going to come back in about too many words. There you go. So I'm going to change that up in the next 2 minutes. We'll see you back. Here we go.
You know, and that's what I feel like. You feel like you're the Harriet Tubman of the mind.
I am.
I feel like I'm one of the Harriet Tubmans of intelligent Black people. Like, I want to liberate y'all from like being left behind and ignored and oblivion. No, really, the rappers get all the attention. You know, seriously, does anybody else feel this way? Like ignorant Black people, they'll be all up, you know, getting all the headlines on the Shade Room.
Overly sexualized Black folks.
Like the twerkers and the, you know, just people that, you know, don't always represent the best of us, you know, the diversity, you know, like people like Dr. Vibe. Like, everybody should know about people like Dr. Vibe. Dr.
Really
Vibe he's trying to do good work for Black people. Dr. Vibe from Toronto. Good to see you, my brother. Dr. Vibe. Everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. He's very good at what he does, and I have a lot of respect for him. The men who are also doing the same thing. I see Dr. Vibe in here. He's a great brother. Everybody should follow Dr. Vibe, by the way. He's a smart brother in Canada, and we need to follow smart people. So follow Dr. Vibe if you see him in the chat. And Dr. Vibe, say your name in the chat so people can see you. I want you to click on his name, and I want you to go follow him, please, because I want these men and women that are doing the right things to get the support they deserve. Hey, Dr. Vibe, how you doing, brother? Again, like I always do, I got to say everybody should go follow Dr. Vibe. He's got a great show. Dr. Vibe, I know Dr. Vibe's got a kingdom because I see your channel. I see you pouring into that every day. Everybody should follow Dr. Vibe, by the way. Look him up, Dr. Vibe, V-I-B-E. He's a great friend of me and my wife, and I love this guy. Okay, so let me hop into this. What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? Everybody, if you see Dr. Vibe in the chat, everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. Dr. Vibe is a real smart brother and a good human being. I like the guy a lot, and he's very intelligent. And I think everyone should pay attention to what he's got going on. We got to shine the spotlight on the intelligent Black people out here that are really doing the good work. Don't just pay attention to the rappers and the celebrities. You know, a lot of these people are losers. Your true winners are your people in your community that are really having your back. You know, helping us to have stronger families and a stronger community. So Dr. Vibe is in that category. So you might see the Dr. Vibe show in this chat. If you see him, please go follow him. Okay. All right. So anyway.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Andrew, you seem to like that little video.
I do.
Excellent. Excellent. So we are back and with Andrea, and she's going to start laying it down when it comes to the UN decade, because it's very important and there's updates on it. And I have to update something. Fitness IQ, KSEYLRWFQFV. Got it right. I forgot it for a second. So she needs that. I have to address her that way every time she's on. So if you are live with us, Andrea is like, I mean, you know, I almost feel like showing what she sent me as her bio and putting it up. I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. That's all right. But I first met Andrea in regards to the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent. See, I've cleaned it up, family. No one said it was wrong there. So I had to notice myself. Thanks, everybody. Just joking. So what I would like Andrea to do, if she could, is some people still might be aware of it and what you've seen happen with it in Canada. So let's start with that.
Yeah. So, you know, the UN decade started in 2014, and Canada signed on to the UN decade in 2018 through the advocacy of many people, including the UN DPAD Push Coalition that I now lead. And, you know, the pillars of the UN decade is one, recognition, right, which includes our Black people's contribution to Canada, among other things. The second one is justice. And, you know, in Canada, a Black person is 9 times more likely to be in jail than any group. And the highest 2 groups is Indigenous people and Black people that are filling up the jails. And of course, same in the US for Black people. And thirdly, which is the area that I generally work in for the most part, is development, which is around, you know, employment, entrepreneurship, housing, education, and a host of other things on the development cycle. And what the UN decade requires, that each country that signs on to make progress in these areas, including take positive, and I'm going to call it affirmative action to address these issues and to make redress, including look at the policies, legislations in the countries, right, and making changes or creating new ones as needed. And we've seen Canada. I'm proud to say that Canada is one of the only Western countries who actually signed on to the decade. Interestingly enough, even though like when you know countries participate, and a lot of Western countries also voted against it as well.
Just
So,
out of, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So Canada signed on and started, making some progress, and including the Black Entrepreneurship Program was funded in Canada. It's a work in progress, and the Black Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, which I lead, is a part of that programming. But we still obviously have a long way to go. We're not seeing the policies, we're not seeing the legislation and things that is really is going to make a change, a permanent change in addressing systemic racism, systemic anti-Black racism in different venues, including the federal government. And so, a lot of people have been working very hard at this in different areas. But we're still would like to see that, because these programs are funded, and it's a good thing that the Canadian government is doing. But funding does not make it sustainable, because there's no policy to support it. So at any time, funding can be cut, anything can happen. But when there are policies, supporting policies and legislation, then there's really sustainability of these things. So even though we're proud of Canada for taking this first step, we're urging the government to continue and to, make the systemic changes that is necessary to really make positive and a real difference to our daily lives as Black people in Canada. So, for example, I presented at the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent in the UN. And one of the things that I've been pushing here in Canada for several years is a Canada Labor Code amendment to make racism a form of workplace violence and harassment, right? So when Black people are facing racism in Canada, we don't really have any protection in the workplace, and not just Black people, all racialized people that experience racism. So this is not just for our benefit. This is for the benefit of all racialized people in Canada. It's literally one word change to add one word to the Canada Labor Code. They've made many changes to it over the last few years, but yet not this one, right? Which impacts more than 25% of the working population in Canada. And if we think about it, in 10 years, it will be over 50% will be racialized people in the workforce. So we'd like to see, this is one legislative change, along with the other policy change. We've made lots of suggestions to the government. We've done lots of consultations. And, we hope they're hearing us, because we're not exactly seeing, the systemic changes that we're looking for. But like I said, Canada, as the only country, has made a step in the right direction and has been making some investments in this that no other, that has never happened before. So we got to say, we're seeing progress.
Okay. Comment from the Alliance Fitness IQ Camp says, Andrea, your bio is amazing, by the way. And what I shared on YouTube is only a small snippet. So if anyone wants to see the full bio, you get in contact with me and I'll share it with you. It's amazing. Just out of curiosity, did the U.S. sign the declaration?
No.
What a surprise. That is interesting. What do you feel have been some wins in this process from where you sit?
I think we've seen more, Black people in, for example, MP Greg Fergus was the Speaker of the House. That's a big win. We'd like to see more in the House of Commons, but there's more numbers than there ever was. From a community point of view, there is, the Black Entrepreneurship Program that was funded. That's really good, a very good start. We have lots of funded Invest organization, and here in Ottawa we have Invest Ottawa that is funded by the federal, provincial, and municipal government for years, right? They have permanent funding, a lot of these organizations. But the Black Entrepreneurship Program doesn't. I just want to point that out. And the reason why we needed this program was because the programs that are funded were not really supporting Black entrepreneurs and Black people. And the few people that would get involved with them that did not feel welcome in those spaces and feel supported. Hence, the proposal for the Black Entrepreneurship Program, and the Canadian government, Minister Ng, MP Greg Fergus, and a few others were instrumental in supporting it and helping to move it forward. So that was good. There's the Black Endowment Fund as well that is now set up. I think they're working on a justice strategy right now is going on. So there's things that are happening. And I've seen, like, on the housing side, there's now a program to support Black housing. So there's some things that are happening. It's very piecemeal. It's not a whole government approach, in my opinion. And I think, these things need to be embedded within those systems, and the systems need to do that. And these are new. They're technically, I'm going to say they're pilots, right? They need refining and, tweaking. So I think, we're going in the right direction, but we're not seeing the policy and legislative changes that is really needed. Because what this means is why we need the policy and the legislative changes. Lots of people, including, my parents' generation and generations before them, have been fighting. And we're always starting from scratch because there's no policy, there's no legislation. We need a foundation so that the next group of people, our young people, have a foundation from which to work, and we're not always starting from scratch. So that's, the gist of where we are. And this government has done, as I said, made a good start, and there's lots more work to be done. And both here and in the US as well. A particular area that is a huge gap is with respect to Black women. It's a passion of mine as a Black woman. Black women are the highest educated group in Canada since 2011. I looked at the numbers for to date, and I don't know how far it went back, but we've been and still is the highest educated group, but you're not seeing us in leadership positions. I've seen like some changes recently, but even when they're in leadership positions, they tend to be undermined and pushed over the glass cliff, right? To their detriment. So those areas, we see Black women-owned business is 0.63% of all Black businesses, and only about 1.7% of all women-owned businesses in Canada. But if we look at the Caribbean and Africa, Black women are a very large portion of business owners, but somehow that doesn't translate when they come to Canada. What is the issue there, and what is happening? So the Black Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, we're collecting data to understand the state of Black entrepreneurship, both the person and their enterprises. We know they make less money than all other business owners. And we're trying to understand the challenges, the barriers of that. We're doing a qualitative study as well to understand their stories, right? Because numbers doesn't always tell the full picture, right? And we know that research and data is not sexy. It doesn't impact people right away. And so we call it the Black Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Map that was just released by Minister Valdez, the Minister of Small Business. And that is something practical that I, created the vision for, that I wanted a practical thing to deliver and help Black entrepreneurs. Harvard Business School says, how does business grow is through their connections and their capabilities, right? So if you want growth, you need those two variables. Now, if you don't have the connections, you don't have any eyes on your capabilities, right? So my vision for the Black ecosystem, Black entrepreneur ecosystem mapping is to create a proxy for that connections, to use technology to connect them to not just each other, but to other support systems within the entrepreneurial ecosystem, people who support and organizations who support Black entrepreneurs, both inside and outside our community as well. So, for example, one of the big issues is our businesses are small, right? And I'll tell you, we have like 1 million, and I'm exaggerating, like cleaning business, for example. And I remember about 4 years ago, I saw on the federal government site a contract for the Department of Defense, who's national, to clean their buildings. But because each person is too small to action that, I wanted to bring everybody together, and I couldn't do it because I didn't know where they all were, right? Because all of us together, I'm pretty sure, could have serviced that contract and won that contract, but each one individually couldn't. So we hope that when they're connecting on the beam, they can create joint ventures, to action bigger contracts and opportunities. I do a lot of work in community, and I'm a part of the Ottawa Community Benefits Network, among other things. And I talked to procurement people and the supplier diversity, and they're like, we want to work with Black entrepreneurs, but we don't have one place to find them, right? Each organization may have a database, and it isn't. But not one place where people can go and find them. So, to make a long story short, we have really great hopes for this. Every time Black entrepreneurs are so excited about it and getting involved with it, we hear lots of ideas of what we can do with it. They're like, we can see where there are gaps. If we want to expand our business, where are the communities that we want to target, where they are? You can see that on the map. And it's not just a Google map like you see with everybody. We're mapping the connections between people so we can do research as well to say, is it really the fact that Black people, when they build connection, their business is growing and they're making more income? Because we know that in society, the higher your education, the more money you make. But that's not the case for Black people, right? If you look at Black people, the education, their income is not in line with what that graph says in white communities, right? So are we an exception to this research too as well? So we want to know, and it's part of that studying, and then people can connect with each other through it as well, and build their networks and opportunities, both economic opportunities, social opportunities. A new person who's starting can find out who are the organization that can offer them services, and who are other Black founders that they can connect with and learn from. So, it's somebody called from an African country, and they told me, oh, we can see where we want to immigrate, where, Black businesses are, because they want to start a business. So, every time people come up with new ideas on what could be done with it and how they could look at it. So I'm very, very proud of it, because I just didn't want it to be an academic exercise. I wanted it to be a valuable economic driver that Black entrepreneurs can leverage. So very proud of the work and the team that we have at Carleton University, at the BEKH at Carleton University. We have some amazing people, and I'm so proud to work with them.
So this all has relation, people, to the decade, because for the decade to move forward, economics is going to have to be the driver.
Yes.
Bottom line. I'm going to come back to that. Dr. Tachi says, indeed, we have been taught that education is the key to success. It is in some senses, but in others, we end up being overeducated, broke people.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
A lot of highly educated people here in Canada are underemployed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not participating to the maximum, to the detriment of Canada. Because
Absolutely.
the more people are employed, the more money you make, the more taxes you pay, right? To grow our economy. We have, like, right now, 7 retirees to 1 is the ratio that's coming up to 1 working person. And our economy isn't, our population, our Canadian population isn't growing without immigration. So we need immigrants to build and grow our economy. We're now we're one of the slowest growing G20 economies. We're 18 out of 20, which is sad because we have so many amazing people, especially in the Black community, in racialized community, that is not getting access and the opportunities, equal opportunities that they deserve to help grow Canada and make it a more beautiful place, both economically as well as, physically. So it's sad. It's a loss to Canada.
Right. So Fitness IQ Cam says, Dr. Tachi, very true in that comment, that many overeducated broke people. From your lens, what is preventing the Canadian government and governments, not just federal, but also provincial and even local, for moving ahead with more progress when it comes to the decade?
I think awareness of it is an issue. And even like community organizations, like, for example, my work with the UNDPAD Push Coalition, we didn't have any funding. It's out of my pocket. When I, do anything, it's me paying for it myself, right? So there's not a support for the decade in that sense to help build awareness and to help mobilize and convene. You, Dr. Grant, was instrumental in all the town halls. We had the Are You Listening with 9% of the Black population present across the country. That was unheard of, right? And when we did that, still we don't have like that support from the government on that to do that convenient.
And can I just interrupt you? What about the support from us? Because the government's going to say, well, we don't see the support coming from your own people, so why should we move on it?
Well, I'm going to say our own people are supporting us. Dr. Vibe, you support us a lot with.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm talking more than just the people. We're talking about more than just the people that are, I would say, a lot of times when we get involved in these initiatives, it's the same people.
Yes, true.
What I'm talking about is the people outside the same people.
What I've found is it's very hard. Our community has the highest poverty rates, the highest, all the bad statistics you can think of. We're at the bottom in these cases. So frankly, if you're being impoverished all the time, we have the government like have consultation. They don't pay us to come and do this, right? We go and we talk to them over and over and over, and yet it's our time and it's like, honestly, I stopped going to most of them, right? I went to one recently in the last almost, right, in months, because I was like, I'm tired of you getting ideas and you're still not actioning it, right? That's the issue. If families, we have a lot of people that are working multiple jobs, that are doing all this stuff, and they're trying to survive.
Yeah.
To really expect them to do this, we have like highly educated people.
Yeah, they don't have time.
Like Dr. Tachi said, that are broke, right? How we can't really expect,
right?
Right? Is that an expectation? Now, I'm not saying we as Black community can't do more. We totally can. We can, because there's people who can give that are not. But also, because we don't have that capacity, many people are not even aware as well of the decade, right? Because we don't have the capacity to go out and share it and to do that and whatever. When a person has had multiple jobs, right? A lot of things, when we were doing with the UN DPAD Push Coalition, we did on Sundays, we did on weekends, we did on nights. So to make it convenient for people, right? As much as possible, but it's not an easy solution, right? It's just not. And to expect that, I don't think is necessarily realistic.
Okay. All right. Ray from the Macmillan Group, our sponsor on Mondays of the Morning Vibe, says, I think the challenge is information is not being propagated effectively to the larger Black population. Would that be the reason involvement is so limited?
Yeah, a lot of times, like I was at an event last night, and it was a Canadian African diaspora event, and many people were there, and they're like, how can I get involved and how can I do? But a lot of times what they have to offer us is their time, right? They don't have the money to offer us. So we have a lot of time where people help with doing things, and that's what we get from community is our time, right? And that time we used to try to do that. But when you have money, that the reason why I focus on economic justice and the development pillar of the UN decade, we've made huge progress in Canada in certain areas. We know, for example, the Ontario Human Rights Commission, the Human Rights Act, that was the result of Black people's work in Ontario. And we've been locked out a lot of those social things that we developed, right? In fact, a lot of organizations that are started by Black women particularly have been taken over by, dominant culture people in leadership, and then just erased from that history. So I would say, and they get the support. Canada gives $10 billion the last time I checked, which was maybe like 2 years ago, to nonprofit organizations. And the percentage that goes to Black people is so small, they can't really identify what that is, right? So we've pushed, not just us, but a lot of other people have pushed for the Black-led, Black-serving, and Black-mandated organizations to get funded. And one of my proposals to the government was to set aside a proportion of the funding for those organizations to make sure we get it. That still hasn't happened. Like that was with ESDC, for example. So we don't know, the support that goes to Black community is very, very small, right? And this is Canadian taxpayer money that's going to organization that supports people. But the Black organizations don't get the same level of funding. We saw that philanthropic report that talked about that less than 1% of giving is given to Black nonprofits and all that. Less than 1% of investments, capital investments, go to Black entrepreneur too, right? So it's a sad state of affairs. And so people are bootstrapping and doing what they can. And because of that, they're limited. right? They're using their credit cards to grow their business,
Mhm.
which then makes, if they're maxing out their credit card to pay their bills and to do all this stuff, it reduces your credit rating. And now you're a bad credit risk and you can't get a loan and all that stuff.
Cycle.
Yes, so it's a vicious cycle that entrepreneurs are dealing with, for example, in this area.
Am I correct? We're past Black History Month in this part of the world, but did the Prime Minister make an announcement involving the decade? Can you share that with us?
It was very good news because we've been asking for that for a long time, and we were really pleased. I think all of Black Canada was pleased that he extended the decade for 4 years, for 4 more years, which is great because it was, the decade officially ends December 2024. And so that gives us more time to work and get more things done. From what I understand at the UN, like, we're going to have another decade as well, because as you know, Canada was the only Western country to sign on to the decade and did any work. And very little progress happened worldwide with advancing Black people and addressing anti-Black racism, right? And so because of that, the ask is for another decade to get more people on board.
So very interesting what you just shared. So Dr. Tatches, I was going to have a conversation with you, but she puts up, what is the Canadian government doing in response to all this, if anything?
To the decade?
Yes.
So, of course, Canada extended the decade for another 4 years. So that gives us that impetus to work within this, to work with the system for the next 4 years. Assuming it's the same government.
I was going to ask about that.
We don't know if there's a government change or anything, if they will honor any of these commitments. So it's a time of uncertainty for everyone, and not just us, but economically, right? The economy, not just in Canada, worldwide, is facing some headwinds that is, causing challenges for everyone. And, when that happens, usually underrepresented groups face it worse, right? They said, there was a joke that said, when the US coughs, Canada catches a cold, right? So, when the system, there's problems, then, poorer people, right? Underrepresented people feel it even worse. So this is not a time for us to give up and to check out. It's a time for us to stay the course and push even harder.
You had mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Canada was the only Western country to sign on to the decade. What does that tell you about what governments think about? And so if you're including all the countries, remember, and there are countries that are run in the Western Hemisphere by us, isn't that really shake your head material?
Yeah, it shows you the global experience of anti-Black racism, right? And if you look across Western countries, the stories are all the same. It's sad that, I hear somebody's story to my story. Like, when we go to the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent, I had the first global civil society conference of Black people, and we had people from all over the world come to this event, and we talked about, what are the things that is needed to support Black community. And the stories are all the same. The issues are all the same. Now, it doesn't mean that countries aren't doing things here and there. Like Brazil has made a lot of changes, and people are doing, I don't want to say one-off, but they're not trying to honor the spirit and the intent of the UN decade, which requires them to take positive action, to address, to redress, to do legislation policies. And they don't really want to commit to that to address anti-Black racism.
I need some clarity from you. What about countries in the West Indies that are the majority of the population is African?
Okay, what I should say, white countries. Now,
Okay.
the voting for the decade, if it weren't for African countries and Caribbean and Black countries, we wouldn't have had a decade, because the dominant culture countries, Western countries, did not vote for it.
Shame.
True.
And I asked earlier on in the U.S. Now I don't think, I can't see the U.S. now. Well, maybe not signing in the future, especially in the past year with the Supreme Court reversing DEI. So I was just curious if the U.S. had signed on, because I hadn't heard anything from any U.S. media about any involvement by the American government or the United Nations with this.
Secretary Blinken, I think, I think she supports the decade. She was at the PFPAD in New York last time, and we met with her and stuff. But I'm going to say that, and the U.S. actually came and represented and talked about the things that they were doing, right? But still they did not sign on, but they're doing things. So I'm not saying like countries are not doing things, but they're not, in signing on to it, you're basically saying, you know what, I'm going to honor the requirements of this, and I'm going to do the things that's required of this, not piecemeal, not, we're going to take positive action to address this problem, right? On a whole country approach. So when you haven't signed on, you're saying, right? I'll do some things, I'll do whatever, but I'm not buying into this whole thing to address all the issues. So that's my thought. I could be wrong.
No, it's okay.
I
always appreciate your passion. We always have great conversations, whether it's on screen or on a phone. What do we need to do as a people to hold, and see from African Canadian perspective, the government accountable when it comes to the decade, at least for as long as it's running now? It may change if there's an election, but with the current government, what things do we need to do to make sure and to hold them accountable? Because it sounds like from your lens, they haven't been accountable as much as they could be.
Yeah, I think that as community, we need to write to our members of parliament, call them, right? We need to come together, have these discussions. We need to really come together. You knew that during the, for a while we were strong, and a lot of people, organizations got funded, and now frankly they're kind of afraid to speak up because they don't want to lose their funding, right?
Facts.
And so, there has been some pullback from some strong participants, but we've had other people that are there. And the thing is, we just need to keep getting the word out and keep telling people what to do. We try to do a lot around, composing form letters for people that they can just sign and send to make it easy, especially for our community members who don't have a lot of time, who have children, who are trying to survive. Make this easy for them to participate and their voices to be heard. And so that's really important things that we need to do as leaders. Make sure all the intersectionality of our community is included and their voice is heard as well. And we just got to keep pushing ourselves and hold. One of the things we've asked the government to do is to do metrics, right? To measure the progress, right? Mm-hmm. What are the percentage of funding of this 10 billion that goes to Black communities, for example, right? How do we know that we're really making progress? What are the policy changes that are happening? What are the legislative? We're not getting any of that from the government. They did build a website, and now they showed, like, for example, the housing policy and some things on it. But we need to see numbers. If you don't measure it, it's not going to happen, right? How will you hold people accountable? And lastly, we've got the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the thing for society and growth, the plan for growth and sustainability for the next 30 years, right? And we are not included in that. The data is not collected according to race. That was one of the things I recommended at the UN, right? That data be collected intersectionally so we can see which groups are being left behind, right? We saw Canada during poverty numbers drop significantly, but we were the highest poverty rates going up to like 30% as of like a year or two ago. And yet the number says like around 10%. I know that it's not 10% for our community at all. Now, SIBA helped a lot because everybody got a stable during COVID income. So that may artificially impact the thing. But now that SIBA is gone, are those numbers back where they were? And we're not seeing that. The SDG numbers in Canada and Canada's report does not address race or anything. So we don't know how we're doing in relation to those things. So how can we, as a world, say this is the policy, but it's not looking at, underrepresented groups and how they're being impacted and whether they will be sustainable, right? As we move forward. So, those are things that we need to address as well, because the decade will end. We'll still stay Black. We'll still be facing challenges. And how are we going to do it? We need to make sure we're in those spaces, we're in those tables. The SDG, not very many Black people are participating in that because we're not being invited to those tables in a lot of cases, right?
What is SDG?
The Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay. You just shared, and I think something that has to be addressed. There's a dilemma. You mentioned that certain organizations aren't speaking up because they're funded by the government. That's a dilemma.
It is.
Go ahead.
But what I was going to say, as civil societies, we can go hold the government accountable. Innovate Inc. With Jessica Yamoa and I, we did the global consultation with African diaspora across the world, and we developed a scorecard. And the scorecard is the UN Decade Goals, and it's intersectional with the SDGs to measure how we're doing. And the last report we put in, Canada failed in many of the areas, right? Because we don't see any action and progress and the numbers and all that stuff around that. And we don't have something to measure the government. This is our report that was developed, not just within Canada, but across the diaspora. They're in support of this. We presented it and submitted to the UN. And so we need to be measuring and holding Canada accountable and then putting pressure when we're not seeing that, whether we are funded or not, because I'm going to say dominant culture organizations that are funded, they have lobbyists, they have government relations, and they have advocacy, right? And they feel comfortable speaking up with challenges that are impacting their organization as well as, the coalitions that they're involved in, and they don't, feel comfortable. I have to give a shout out to the Policy Alternatives, Center for Policy Alternatives. I worked with them doing the alternate budget, and there's a chapter on racialized people. They've allowed us to write, and those are being looked at by the government. So I do want to say there are organizations that support, and we need to build more alliances as well with those. We're building that, most of the time when, for example, in the Canada Labour Code Amendment, people are shocked. Everybody are shocked that racism is not covered. And when we talk to the government says racism is technically covered, but guess it's not explicit like gender orientation, those things in the Canada Labour Code. So we'd have to go and test it to the Supreme Court. Who has the money and the resources and the time for that, right? So the tax would be on us to test it to see, and then we might lose. How hard it is to add one word to that when they make the changes. They made some changes about people who've lost children, and that's very necessary. I don't know what percentage of the population, right, is facing that issue. I know it's a small amount, and they changed it. That was one of the amendments they're proposing for the Canada Labour Code Amendment, but something that affects right now 26%, 25, 26% of the workforce, they refuse to consider. Is really sad, really, really sad, because you're inviting, racialized people from all across the world to the country, and you say you're welcoming them, but they're going into workplace with no protections, right? So
it sounds from what you're outlining and sharing with us, we have to take the initiative.
Yes, but like this Canada Labour Code Amendment, it's been sent and discussed with Minister Reagan and his people, the minister before that, and still no uptake, right? So we're getting community support and all that. It's tough to move it along.
So as we close out our conversation, and thank you for sharing as always, if you had an opportunity, and you do have opportunities to speak to, if you had an opportunity to sit down one-on-one with the Prime Minister of this country and say, Prime Minister Trudeau, this is what we're looking for when it comes to the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent, what would you tell the Prime Minister?
So we have the three pillars: the recognition, we have development, and we have justice. And all of those need work. What are the policies around that? What is the legislation? An easy win for the government that I've been saying and pushing for the last few years is the Canada Labour Code Amendment. That will have drastic positive repercussions, not just on Black people, but all racialized people in the workplace. These are some easy wins that doesn't take a lot. I know it's complicated as a politician. Politics is not easy. And I know people go in with all high hopes of making changes, and the system, the way it is not always conducive to that. So I understand the tough decisions, but there is right and there is wrong, right? And at the end of the day, is this right? Is this going to help a lot of people? Is this going to make Canada more welcoming? Is this good for our economy? Yes, it is. Like all these things, right? So I think sometimes we have to say, try it, let's do it. If it doesn't pass, at least put it through, right? And I would bet, that they're not going to not support something like this, because it's not only an easy win, it's beyond the right thing to do.
All right. Fantastic. Well, Andrea, I want to say thank you for taking the time to share with us this morning, because this is one of the hardest working people in the world that I know. Like, there's not too many times when I reach out to her that she's still. But she does get a good sleep. She goes to bed at a good time each night. And I know after a certain time, if I call her, I'm not going to get her because she's sleeping, which is good, because she's giving herself grace and managing her time and her energy. Want to just say, let me see. There's one more comment someone has here. Oh, the ACBMH. Excellent conversation. So it's all her. It's not me.
Hey, it's two of us together.
There we go.
And you've been like such a great supporter of the UNDPAD Push Coalition, of the decade, of all the great work people are doing. You've always amplified our voices. You know, we go way back.
Yes, we do.
So,
and it ain't over yet. It ain't over till until our people win, right?
Yeah, and your show has been integral in, like, you know, getting people to even know and build that awareness for the decade and all that. So we really appreciate you. We couldn't have done this without you.
Well,
seriously.
well, we do it together, and I think one of the key components for the decade is media and getting the information out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the things, you know. So Opal Inspired, good morning, says, thank you, Andrea. Great conversation. Keep up the great work. I think your number one fan has something to say. Great conversation, Andrea. I love it. For those who want to get in touch with Andrea, there's her LinkedIn link profile. I will share it before we go off air on all the platforms. Andrea, thank you so much for taking time to share it today. As always, I have to say, I got to give Mommy up again. There we go. Go ahead.
And I do have to say, if people who are listening, especially if you're an entrepreneur, tell entrepreneurs, go to BEKH.org, BEKH.org, and, you know, fill out our survey, because then that's your voice to the government to say what's going on with you and your business and what you want to see. And also come and sign up for the Black Entrepreneur Ecosystem Map. Put your business there so you can be visible to all of Canada and probably the world, because I notice people are hitting us up from across the world, looking at our map. We're still in data collection to have business register, because you control your data. You can delete it at any time, whatever. You have full data sovereignty over your data in our system. Mm-hmm. So we're not going in and just we want you to come and opt in and do the things and be visible to people in procurement who want to hire and get Black people, you know, come and connect with each other and with systems that can help you. So, yeah.
Can you do me a favor? Offline, can you share that link information so I can put it in our Discord group? Because I have a whole bunch of entrepreneurs in a few different Discord groups that I run, Black or African entrepreneurs. I can encourage them to fill out the survey if that works.
Yes, I will totally send that to you. Thank you.
All right. So as always,
everybody, we really appreciate your engagement with us and staying with us throughout this period. And Dr. Vibe, you know I love you so much.
I know, and always I want to say you and Mommy and the rest of the family, what an amazing family. Thank you for sharing some of your family. You and Mommy, thank you for sharing some of your family, because just in the first few minutes, I was so inspired and wonderful. So as always, to you, Mommy, and the rest of the family, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, family. Epic conversation. Got another Fitness IQ Cam. Great conversation. Well, people are loving it today. Dr. Tachi says, thank you so much for sharing with us, Andrea. Yes. So you know what Dr. Vibe has to do now? Now he has to get Mommy back on. Because Mommy, you hide yourself really well, Mommy. But there's a few things that I'd love you to just share. Well, and she has so many wonderful things offered. Now some of her story, but also advances what's going on in Black psychotherapy, trauma. I'm really trying to get a group of Black therapists together, along with Dr. Alicia in the US, to have come together on one conversation. That would be an epic conversation, because I know that some people have watched Dr. Alicia when she's on it. I'm working on something. Give me some time. Things take time. All right. So a few things before we kick off for the rest of the day, and hopefully not too much snow as I look out the window. Hasn't started yet. Here we go. Always subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit the notification button. Also follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I host, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, join the Discord group. You'll get this information that Andrew's going to share with me. Email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Shout out, if you're watching this before Sunday, March 24th, 2024, if you can make it out to Black Marriage Day. There's the information there. And I think we're going to have a post conversation after with Nicole and Paul. Indie Soup Media launches March 25th, 2024. And we will find a way of getting Dr. Tashi to come on for a few minutes, at least a few minutes, on upcoming Monday's show. So that is it. A few other things. Ryan could not make it, but if you want to get a hold of Ryan, those are all the places you can get a hold of Ryan. And for me, website, the drvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram at the drvibeshow.com, X, which a number of people watch this conversation live today, which is interesting, at drvibeshow, and email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And scrolling along the bottom are all the different places that you can watch replays of the conversation. What I'm going to do right now is just share all the different platforms. Yes, Dr. Tachi says snow. Yes, snow is coming to Toronto today. Supposed to get about up to 6 inches of snow in Toronto starting this afternoon and going on overnight. Supposed to stop tomorrow. So just mind me, folks, I'm just sharing some information where you can get a hold of Ryan, where you can get a hold of myself is all done. I don't think there's anything else I want to share today. Oh, Andrea's LinkedIn. Got to do that. So just let me do that, and we are going to be out of your screen. All right. Done. All right. Got the main information out. So let's get to this. Oh, mind me as I'm just flying all around the place. Okay. And you can watch replays of the epic conversation called The Morning Vibe, the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube and Facebook, Afro Caribbean Business Network, Facebook and YouTube, and Ryan Oneil Knight, YouTube and LinkedIn. All right. That's done. I think. Yeah, we're done. All right. So let me see if I can get this thing off there. Okay, we're good. Coming up on Monday, we have someone talking about some artistic stuff, but also Dr. Tachi will be on for Indie Soup Media. So we're excited. And also, if you're with us tomorrow night, 7 p.m., primetime Saturday with Aisha, and Lala. So how they make sense of the nonsense going on in America. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless, peace, well, keep the faith, and walk good.